What's up YouTube, Del here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you an update to Dark Magician. This time it is involving the Diabellstar Engine. So this build is absolutely going to annoy the heck out of Dark Magician purists, but trust me, it shows you so many different spicy options for the deck and how it synergizes that it's going to be informative whether you are looking to build it this way or looking to build it a different way. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. So we start off with, of course, Dark Magician cards and the almighty wizard in terms of attack and defense. So going with 2 Dark Magician is pretty much all you need for the build in terms of the amount of Dark Magicians you play. If you were to play in this deck Sacred Sword of 7 or of Law of Darkness, you could bump this up if you wanted to. We are also playing the 1 Dark Magician Girl, just because we are utilising the field spell in this version, the Magician's Salvation. You can utilise Dark Magician Girl if you want to, and we want to try and maximise the draws we can off of Soul Servant. You can, of course, place Mana, and you can play Oracle Mahad as well, should you want to, but I kind of feel that this sets the tone for the type of the deck. Now, of course, Dark Magician Girl herself will be a bit of a brick, but you can send her off of the Diabellstar the Black Witch. It's entirely up to you whether you want to play her or not. Then, of course, the only normal summon of the deck is, of course, going to be Magician's Rod. In my opinion, it's a little bit dated for the deck now. Just because there are, like, it's good for what it does. Like, what it does is probably the best thing we could do on normal summon. But we kind of needed this card to be on normal or special to get more advantage from it. And, the targets it is searching aren't the greatest right now. I feel that if we do get a new Dark Magician fusion spell that is utilised for us, then it will be really, really good. And we do have that Dark Magician spell, which is like Monster Reborn or something, which the effect is being revealed in January. But if the name's anything to go by, I can't imagine it's going to be any effective for the deck. It does just need its own fusion spell. Then, of course, we do have triple Magician Souls. Like, this card is probably one of the best new support cards we ever received for this deck, alongside Red Eye's Dark Dragoon. For those of you that don't believe Dark Dragoon is a Dark Magician card, it has Dark Magician on the artwork, so technically it counts. And then, of course, we've gone with triple Illusion of Chaos. Now, usually I'd play Preparation of Rites, but with the fact that there are so many Drow and Lockbirds running around right now, I don't want to activate Preparation of Rites, search out Illusion of Chaos and get Drow and Lockbirded. I'd rather reveal Illusion of Chaos, get my Magician Souls, and then get Drow and Lockbirded. Again, on top of that, this is where more synergy will come if you do play Sacred Sword of 7 or of Law of Darkness, because then you do have abundant amount of these cards just to be sent and banished and whatever. But because we are playing the Diabellstar Engine, you do get a little bit more advantage over having cards like this. The last monster, of course, Tomias the United Dragon. This is your one route through normal Dark Magician plays via monster effects to get you into your extra deck. So being able to get into stuff like Red Eye's Dark Dragoon and everything else. But you'll see that we're going to be utilising the other engines in this deck to help us access the extra deck for Dark Magician a lot more consistently. We are, of course, playing triple Soul Servant. You can play Pot of Prosperity if you want to. Ultimately, again, because there's more cards in this deck that I want to use for draw power, Soul Servant was probably a little bit more effective for this. On top of that, again, as well, if you were going, okay, well, what can I cut to play a Law of Darkness or Sacred Sword of 7? You could cut Dark Magician Girl out, and you could then cut a Soul Servant down to 2 if you wanted to. Then got the 1 Magical Ice Fusion. Now, I know this technically isn't a Dark Magician card, but I still think it is. It's probably most effective for Dark Magician. And there's a way that I'll show you how you search this out. And then what that's going to allow you to crack back with is you're going to be able to crack back with a Red Eye's Dark Dragoon or a Quintet Magician as well. Then, of course, we do have the 1 Magician's Salvation. This will ultimately set you an Eternal Soul directly from the deck. And then it also allows you, if you normal or special a Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl, you can revive the other from the graveyard, which is pretty cool. 1 Dark Magical Circle. We just need more targets for this card to be relevant. Like, yes, okay, we can play loads of targets, and, you know, I'll probably get in the comments as like, oh, there's 79 Dark Magician spells that list Dark Magician. True. But of those 79, about 4 are useful. So this is why I'm saying we need a spell card that allows us to access. We need like a Magical Ice Fusion that lists Dark Magician. Yes, I know we do have Secrets of Dark Magic, but we need something that is going to be like Red Eye's Fusion. Like, the only thing that can stop Red Eye's Fusion is an Ash Blossom. If they don't have an Ash Blossom, we can access our strongest monsters from the extra deck. Moving on to the Diabellstar Engine, we do play triple Diabellstar the Black Witch. And then, of course, we do have 3 Wanted, Seeker, Sinful Spoils. Now, of course, I know this is stupidly expensive right now. So if you don't have access to the Wanted, you can cut that down to 1. The idea of showing you this engine is what it can bring to you. And what the Diabellstar Black Witch does the most for you is it gives you access to a card called Sinful Spoils of Doom Relica. Now, this one lets you target a level 7 or higher spellcaster monster you control. You apply the following effects. While face up, that monster is unaffected by other monster effects this turn and is sent to the graveyard during the standby phase of the next turn. Or, all monsters your opponent currently controls lose attack equal to the targeted monster's attack. Then if their attack becomes 0 by this effect, destroy them. So what makes this really good is because it manipulates attack, it can be used during the damage step, you have Dark Magician on the board, you reduce all of your opponent's monsters' attack by 2,500. So unless they're stronger than 2,500, they are going to be going zip, dip, 0 and being destroyed. On top of that, you can also main deck the Subversion just because it's a really cool go second option. Because if you don't want to go, like, you're going to set the Relic, you're only setting this to be activated during your opponent's turn. The other card you're going to set off your Diabellstar is going to be the Wanted, and even then that's not that effective. So your 2 options are, you've got an option for going first and then you've got an option for going second, so you're kind of getting the best of both. The other card that we are using to support the engine is, of course, Fenrir. You could very easily play a Cash Tier Dark Magician version. That will rely on Sacred Sword of 7 a lot more. But the idea behind something like Fenrir is it's just such a great card that going first, it sets up your board. It doesn't really clash with anything else once you get it to the board. And being able to search out another copy of itself gives you crackback should they clear your entire board. Or it just gives you that free fodder that you can get rid of. Again, Sacred Sword of 7 is a great target for that, but it's also free fodder for your Diabellstar Witch. You could XYZ your Fenrir with your Diabellstar Witch to get into a rank 7, should you want to, and it does give you those different options. Another engine as well, of course, we do play is the Dogmatika Engine. Now, I know this is engine. It's basically 50% Dark Magician, 50% engine, but these are also just trying to show you the different options you can play. So if you don't have access to the Diabellstar Engine, you can cut those 7 cards out completely, 8 cards out completely, and they then become 8 board breakers or 8 hand traps. If you have the Diabellstar Engine and you're like, oh, I really like this, I want to give it a go, then you can play that and you can cut out the Dogmatika Engine, and that's when you can start playing your stuff like your Allures, Sacred Swords of 7s, Called by the Graves, you name it. So to accompany your Maximus and your Fleur Delis, triple Nadir Servant, and then, of course, triple Duality. So this is the card that helps you cheat out your Red Eyes Dark Dragoon very easily because you can just activate Duality on top of your Fleur or, of course, your Maximus, and that will give you a wang, bang, thank you, man, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon to help you. Now, obviously, it's not going to get the pop and destroy effect, but it is still a, 3k, untargetable, undestructible boss monster. Not to mention, Duality also has a very nice draw effect to banish it from the graveyard to target a light and a dark monster in your graveyard and shuffle them both into the deck and then draw a card. So it lets you recycle the Maximus or the Fleur that you've just tributed off. It also then lets you recycle your Dark Magicians, your Diabellstars. You are in a good space. So like I said, these are a lot of engines. They're not big engines, they're not taking up a lot of space. Like the Nadir package is taking up 8 spaces, the Diabellstar Witch is taking up 8 spaces as well, so you don't need to play all of them. You can chop and choose as you see fit, and that then leads you down the path of more draw cards, consistency cards, board breaking cards, or hand traps. So you've got the range to show you, and that's kind of what I wanted to show you with this build. I didn't want to show you, like, this build will be very aggressive, but it can also be quite bricky. But what I'm trying to show you is the different options that you have depending on the budget you have available to you. So moving on to the extra deck, we'll start with the XYZ. So we've got the one Sky Crisis or Star Slayer Typhoon, followed up by a Bon Illusion Magician and Red Eyes Flare, just because these are very good rank 7s for the deck. And obviously your Bon Illusion can lead you to your Dark Magician. Don't have to play them, just entirely up to you. For the fusion monsters, again, it's entirely up to you. You can play 1 or 2 Dragoons. So it's up to you whether you play 2 Dragoons or whether you play Dragoon and a Quintet. So entirely up to you. The idea is that the first one will come off the back of Duality, and then the second one will then come off the back of Magicalized Fusion. It does cause an issue if you are only playing the 1 Dragoon, because then you're only going to be able to resolve 1 Duality and the other 2 become dead. But keeping in mind when they do clear off the first Dragoon, it is a dark monster, so that can get spun back into the extra deck, and then you can recycle that as you see fit. The Quintet's actually quite good in this version because, of course, you have the Dogmatika monsters, the Dark Magician, the Rod, the Souls, the Illusions, and then on top of that, you also have the Diabellstar. So you can actually make Quintet quite easily. So this is showing you 16 cards once you complete this, but what I'm saying is you've got an alternative option of 2 Dragoons or 1 Dragoon and 1 Quintet. Then for the other options, you've got the Gurura, probably one of the best sends off of the back of the Deer Servant, just to give you that draw and then also get you into your Maximus. If you wanted to, you could play the Shaddoll package in this one. It obviously only takes 1 space up in the main deck in the form of Shaddoll Schism, and then it takes up 2 in the extra deck of Apclone and Winder, or as many more Winders that you want to add. Elder Entity Ints just as a ghost second option to send off a Maximus. Titaniclad, a very nice dragon to be sent off of Maximus, while also in the end phase being allowed to search out the Fleur, which will then ultimately set you up a non-target negation during your opponent's turn. And the final fusion monster I've gone with is the Predaplant Chimera Flesia. Now I did highly consider going for the Abelonatus. Oh, hello, Book of Eclipse. I consider the Abelonatus, but I was like, okay, well, worst case scenario, if my opponent drolls me, the Abelonatus is pretty dead. Yes, it can set the spell card, but then they can destroy it. I'd rather have it in my hand, which is why I ultimately decided to go for Chimera Flesia, because then during the next standby phase, Chimera Flesia can then search me, so it's not really affected by droll. Yes, of course, it is then affected by Ash, so if they open up 2 Ashes, they can then utilise it then, or if they draw the Ash, they can then also utilise it then as well. So you're kind of playing, it's if or all, entirely up to you. You can either go for the Abelonatus or the Chimera Flesia. Obviously, the Abelonatus will lose to back row, they'll just pick that spell apart and you've got no way to kind of protect it. And then, of course, you go Chimera Flesia to kind of play around draw. And then for the Link monsters, of course, we've got the one Umduct. Now, the reason I prefer Umduct over something like Artemis is for the pure fact that the idea is you're going to go into a Dark the Dark Charmer. You'll then be able to revive a Dark monster, hopefully, go into a Selene. Selene will then bring back Dark Magician. You can then turn Dark Magician into Umduct, and then you're going to link those off together and go into Access Code. So then what you've done by going through this path, rather than going through Selene, is you've ended up with 3 different attributes in the graveyard rather than 2, and you've gained 3k. Now, obviously, if you do it the other way around, you're only going to have 2 attributes in the graveyard, Dark and Light, and you're not going to be able to gain... you'll gain the 3k, but you won't be able to gain the Wind attribute. So, on top of that, you're also putting a Dragon in the graveyard, which can be quite useful for Magical Ice Fusion as well. And the last 2 monsters, of course, is IP Masquerade and SP Little Knight. So, I mean, with a title like Dark Magician, Diabellstar, it's not going to be budget-friendly, unfortunately. So... might as well go all out and show you the max power that you can get away with. Like I said, this build is incredibly aggressive, but it is very laxical. And what I mean by that is, I personally, when I'm building this and putting this together, I wouldn't play Diabellstar and Dogmatika. I would play one or the other, and then the other 8 spots become either consistency cards, board breakers, or hand traps. So you kind of have that crack back on what you need to and what you might ultimately end up facing. So keep that in mind when you are putting this together and when you're looking through the video, as I've disclaimed at the start and at the end as well. Anyway, I hope this has given you an idea of your own build going forward. Like I said, Dogmatika, slightly budget. Diabellstar, not budget, but quite aggressive. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Do like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.